If I had bought a pair of shoes or a shirt or a car or an electrical device, I'd tell you to go somewhere else. Don't even think about going back to Microsoft. But there's not too many companies other than a Linux system that will allow you, and Apple, of course, that will allow you to install an operating system on a computer, so there aren't too many choices. People need to be aware of their rights. If you're going to go for a Microsoft product, know your rights and take whatever steps you need to crucify them if they don't provide the support and backup that you get. Never think you're not good enough. People don't have enough choices for operating systems. Apple is, I won't even talk about Apple, but other than Linux, there aren't too many other options. So we're talking about a little bit of an unusual situation here. It's not just a consumer product, but insist on your consumer rights, insist on getting support. And thankfully, people like PIS Consumer are doing a fantastic job, because otherwise people like us have got nowhere to go. But I would also say this, if you can't get the support you need and you live in the United States, it's costing you time, money, and expense. Go and see an attorney and find one of the attorneys that will rub their hands when you come in, because they operate on a full contingency basis and they will sue the pants off Microsoft and get you your money, and they'll earn a healthy retainer for themselves in the meantime. I'm going to start just by saying one thing, all right? I've been involved in corporate management and tech support for over 20 years. And I know, because of my involvement with an online education company that I own, that tech support and customer support makes or breaks a business, okay? And so I'm not in the habit of just complaining for the sake of complaining, all right? So let me tell you a little bit about the story. 6 weeks ago, an automatic update to Windows 10 Pro corrupted one of our main computers here, and it's the main one that we use for all our communications, emails, tech support. It carried over 10 years of email and comms records and details, so it was pretty important. So the very first thing we did is I went and arranged to purchase a brand new computer. It was a high-spec Dell with Windows 10 Pro on it. And the idea was that we were going to move all the records over to the new machine. When the new machine arrived, we discovered that the corruption on the old PC had removed our admin rights, which prevented us from transferring all of the information from the old machine to the new machine. So 4 weeks ago, we then started contacting, or I personally started contacting Microsoft Tech Support, and that's where the nightmare started. When you call from a location in Australia or New Zealand, you get presented with a phone system that takes you through no fewer than 6 levels, where you need to make up to 4 selections. So your chances of actually getting through to anywhere other than being referred back to their tech support website requires a lot of patience. They must think we are all crazy, because for Microsoft to direct everyone back to their website thinking that we haven't already checked it is a little bit narrow-minded, but I understand they're trying to minimize the amount of time they spend talking on the telephone. Anyway, when you finally get through to Microsoft and you get through the system, and sometimes, as I say, it can take up to several attempts and 10 minutes at a time to get through. When you finally get through to somebody, your given a case number. And that case number is intended to track you through their system until the problem is resolved. And you should only ever require one case number. We have 12. We've spoken from everyone from in the Philippines through to India. In sheer desperation, I actually used one of our own US telephone numbers to call Microsoft directly, and they picked up the phone, and once they discovered we were not located in the United States, they refused to talk to us anymore. The guy was very kind, very helpful. He said, if you're outside North America, can't help you. You got your own numbers. So then I'm back to exactly the same system, all right? Anyway, when we finally managed to get through, we find with experience throughout those 12 case numbers that if you've got a problem like ours, you need to decide whether to speak to the Windows department or the Office department. And if those two problems are mixed, then you're out of luck. Then we discover that there's a difference between an Office technology expert level 1 and a level 2. And people are not allowed to speak to the level 2 technology people. The only way Microsoft actively discourages people, customers, from being able to connect to tech support 2 because they are more knowledgeable. Well, maybe we would get our problems sorted a lot sooner if we could speak to tech support 2. Anyway, why this has taken us over 5, now 6 weeks, is because once you get on the call, you suddenly start getting disconnected. Now, you can be on a call, you arrive on the call, you're asked what the information is, you're given a new case number, and you start at the beginning and you explain exactly the problem. And then they start having a look from their end. And look, the support staff in the Philippines or in India are great people. They want to help you. But when you start getting disconnected and they tell you the reason for being disconnected is because they are in the process of changing their ISP or their internet service provider, you've got to wonder what's wrong. Now, to highlight just how ridiculous this is, I got an email that arrived here last week, and this comes from one of the people in their tech support department who I was speaking to, who was trying to get us up and running, okay? And it's just one short paragraph, and it's astounding. It says, "Hi, Nicholas. Good evening. I really do apologize for what happened on our last conversation when we were disconnected over the call, over the remote session, as something happened with our server. And that put our work down for 11 days. This is my first day of the shift to be back. I'm really worried what's happened to you during these days," and so on and so on. Microsoft offering tech support that when it goes down takes 11 days to get back online. I mean, this is crazy. We run tech support. If I cannot get back to a customer, or one of my staff can't get back to a customer within 4 hours anywhere in the world, I start asking questions about ourselves, because if somebody has paid us money for a service, they are entitled to provide support. And it just, okay, I'm based here in New Zealand. We will make sure that we get back to somebody within a matter of 6 hours if we cannot speak to them immediately. And they have a choice of ringing us, emailing us directly. So anyway, I just thought I'd drop that in there. Then the next stage is we find that part of the problem is when I've gone to install the software that we have purchased legally from Microsoft. This includes Office Pro, Visio Pro, Project Pro. They won't install on a brand new Dell computer, which is running Windows 10 Pro. And so we start digging around on that, and we have to then go and get some advice. And we find, and this is before this situation got really bad with Microsoft, we find that Microsoft installs 365 on their computer before they send it out as part of the Windows operating program. And that Office 365 prevents you from installing any software that you own of theirs. So during that was about case number 9 or 10 at that stage. And that's when they turned around tech support and said, look, the first thing we've got to do is help you. We've got to deinstall Office 365. And so this is a case of another company, a company that used to be one of the largest and most respected software companies in the world. They're installing software on the machine that you've bought with software that from them that you've paid for, and they are giving you that software that you've paid for so that you do what they want you to do rather than actually providing the service that you're expecting to have got when you bought their software. This is happening more and more online now. Google, Facebook, the whole lot. Consumers are being driven by them, but that's a different story. But this is terrible for a company the size of Microsoft. Anyway, we still have the old machine. We still have the corruption on there. 6 weeks later, and I can tell you, in running a company here, I deal with some stressful situations. I have never, ever encountered a company that does not want me to come to them for tech support and does everything they can. But I stress, this isn't their staff. This is about a company who thinks they're so big and so wonderful that it's way beyond them to turn around and examine and look at their own system. I mean, who in hell provides a tech support system where you have to go and physically dial through more than 6 levels with a choice of 4 options at each level? You're pressing your buttons on your phone to get through to them, and you still end up back at their website. I've got to say that I guess there's one final thing. I come from a background where we've had to deal with corporate attorneys over the years. If I was still living in the US, I would have been to see an attorney, because Microsoft is not only not respecting, but they are contravening consumer rights. And consumers like myself have the option in the United States to go and get attorneys that will fight the case for you on a 100% contingency basis. And Microsoft is lucky that I don't live in the United States, because I would have done that, and I would encourage other people in the United States to do that. Outside of the United States, we don't have that luxury. You've got to slap cash on the desk for an attorney for virtually anything before you get any help. Contact me and explain not only why we have this corruption from an automatic update from a company we're supposed to trust, but also to contact me and explain why one of the largest, originally one of the most respected software distributors or publishers in the world, doesn't have the wherewithal to look at and reasonably consistently review whether or not their own tech support and customer support systems are working or not, because they are not. And I partially put this down to the problem is people in the United States, especially in business, are very much US centric. They think the world begins at LA and finishes at New York. I know this because I used to have a business 15 years ago where I was importing software from as a distributor and distributing it out throughout Europe. And the American businessman often, because of their very US-centric view, thinks everything should be done according to the US way of doing things. Well, fortunately, the COVID-19 situation, the coronavirus, the rest of the world is finding there are better ways of doing things other than what's happening in the United States. Microsoft have got to have a look at their own systems for the next time anybody else needs help fixing problems that Microsoft themselves have caused. So yeah, I'd like an apology. I'd like an explanation. Yeah, if they wanted to offer some financial compensation for the time that I, in a managerial capacity, have been cost, that would be gratefully welcome too. But I don't want anyone to think that this is just about money. It's not. This is about Microsoft, a name that's supposed to be known all over the world, that wants to be respected, not respecting the consumer, not respecting the companies that use their products.